Hey guys, how's it going today? So, got my first cutting up off the field. Have a little bit of cleanup to do as far as rebaling a couple of bales of hay. But I've had some requests and some comments about the knotters on this Massey Ferguson Model 12 and how to set them up for success. And to be truthful, I hate that phrase, but I'm not the guy. I'm not an expert on this. But we're going to go ahead and go through there, and I'm going to go ahead and give it the maintenance. Right? So we're going to give these knotters the maintenance and try to get them set up the best we can for success on our next cutting. I do like to do this several times. Right? I want everything to be ready to go when it's time to go for my next cutting. I had some failures this cutting. But we're going to go ahead and step through this. We're going to follow the manual. I ordered a manual online. It's basically just the owner's manual for this thing, a reproduction copy of it. And it gets me part of the way there. It gives me some ideas, but it doesn't get us all the way there. Today we're going to go ahead and just go through and set these knotters up. I know that I've got some issues with the twine needles when they're coming up. My sweeper here, I noticed it was hitting a twine needle. I've got to adjust that sweeper. That's fine. We're just going to go through this. We're going to give it a setup. We're going to give it a little bit of maintenance and try to get this thing to be better for the next go around. So stick around.
Is that thing off?
So the first thing I did is I took my shop vac and I reversed it, and I blew off as much as I could. Right, and I do this before every cutting. I'll blow off and clean up as best I can around these knotters. They just work better without hay in them. These sweepers have to sweep, and I've had it in the past where the hay builds up in there and the sweepers can't sweep. They can't do their job. So we've got to keep those clean. We're going to grab a bar. We're going to roll the baler around, and we're going to check our needle height, our needle clearances. We're probably going to adjust those, and we're going to check our needle clearances on the sweeper. Alright, so my first step in the procedure is I'm starting with my needle adjustment, right? So I tripped the knotter to start the tying sequence, and I rolled the baler over by hand just through a bar in the flywheel until we get these needles right here, and hopefully we can get some good lighting in there and you can see that. We get those needles right up here next to the frame, and we're looking for, in between the needle and the frame, 1/32 of an inch. And you can see on this one I've got nearly 1/4 of an inch, and on this one I'm basically touching. If you remember, I had to repair those needles earlier this spring. I set them up, it was running. Looks like I need a little bit more adjustment. So to adjust that, we break them loose down here, excuse me, right there and right there, and then we can slide them, right? So this needle here has to slide away by just a tiny bit. That needle on that side, I'll break it free, and it's got to slide over that way by a little bit less than 1/4 inch. There could also be some twist in there that would account for some of that, and so we'll just do our very best to get those aligned, straight, and true. So let me get my wrenches and do that. You guys don't need to see me moving a couple of bolts. Okay, I've broken loose the bolts and I've slid them over a little bit. Now it's just kind of trial and error, because there's several degrees of freedom in this apparatus. You break those bolts free, and as you tighten them, it's going to adjust where these needles end up, forward or aft in this axis. But if you slide them or skew them, it's going to affect how it goes in this axis. So every time you break those free, you've got to align both axes. Both axes have to be aligned every time you break those free. So it's just kind of one of those picky little things you have to do. I've got it closer on this side. I can feel tension on my machine rule. I'm probably not quite at 30 seconds. I'm a little bit free on this one. I don't know how precise it has to be. Horseshoes and hand grenades kind of a thing. but we're going to do what we can to get this tight. So right now I've got everything kind of broke free. I'm just going to snug them up a little bit and get them to where they're just a little bit snug and see where we're at, and we'll go from there. In fact, I'm going to put the camera up top, and you'll see how it's affecting if I just tighten one of these nuts up, one of these bolts up. You'll see how it affects the attitude and the position of these needles. So let's see if I can get a good camera angle there without it making a mess, without breaking my mount like I just did. Dang it. Okay. I just tightened just a forward bolt, and you saw how that affected that needle position. And so there's specs for both of those, right? So we have the spec for the closeness to the frame right here, and we also have the spec for the clearance between the needle to the twine disc holder right here, and that spec is within 3/30 seconds to 1/8 of an inch. So we've got to get this to 30 seconds, and this between 3/30 seconds and 1/8. So we've got to bring this in quite a bit. Now we're actually a little bit too tight right in there. We're impinging on the twine disc holder. So we now snug it up, but how are we doing on this side? We're pretty close. I can get that down in there. I can see a little gap of light. We're going to knock it over just a hair. Not quite. I want to be able to get this down in there. That's close. Still touching, and that's as much adjustment as I have. I don't have any, well, hold on before we go any further. Let's see what that does for us. Alright, so we're right at the right distance from the twine disc holder. We're just barely touching right there. And we're going to have to live with that because I don't have any more adjustment. There's no more adjustment right here. You can see I'm hard up against this welded on tab, this stopper. I'm going to consider grinding away at that a little bit to give me a little tiny bit more adjustment, and it's something I'm going to think about. But for right now, I'm going to tighten this up. Now, according to the manual, now that we have our right position, we just tighten these equally. So if I were to go, say, what is that, 1/8 of a turn there? And that's 1/8 of a turn. If I look at my clearance right there, my needle to my twine disc holder, that's right in that range, right? So that's right in that range of 3/32 to 1/8 of an inch. That's probably right at 1/8. I could reduce that by just a little bit by tightening the front one up a little bit more. I don't want to go any further, and in fact, I've got a wide spot. I'm going to move this just a little bit more, that needle up. I like that. I like that clearance. Everything is pretty snug. And I'm actually clearing just barely on that other. We're going to roll with that. So that's snugged up. I don't think I can get it any snugger. There's a little bit left in there. Once again, I'm just trying to snug these up equally so I don't lose any of my I'm going to leave it just like that. Okay, let's snug up the inside. So that's the process for the needles. I'm going to do the other side off camera because it's slow going, but I'm going to do that, and then we'll check the results. I'm really happy with this needle alignment. I'm a little bit proud of a 30 seconds clearance there. I'm right in that 3/32 to 1/8 range on that needle. These two needles are closer than they've ever been. So I'm happy with that alignment. I'm ready to move on to the next step. All right, next step is to roll the baler over and continue up until these needles are at their top position. And then I measure from the eye of the needle where the twine is making contact down to this, what do you call that part of it? To the, not the twine finger, to the twine holder disc. So measure from the needle to the twine holder disc, 2 3/4 to 3 inches. I'm going to be proud of that, right? I know I am, because the way you adjust that is with this turnbuckle right here. And ladies and gentlemen, that turnbuckle is not moving, right? Not without applying copious amounts of heat and then a lot of prayer that it just doesn't crack or strip or be damaged. It is seized on there. Once again, you just have to make compromises. What are you going to live with? I'm going to live with my twine fingers being proud. They're, I think, at about 3 1/4 inches. But we're going to roll this up and over, and I'll measure and I'll show you. There's one other thing I want to look at while I'm doing that, and that's these sweeper arms right here. You can see we're making contact right here, which is okay, because as this moves forward, even though these are on an arc, it's not a perfect arc. And these, well, eventually they clear, but they're supposed to clear initially. So I'm going to have to go ahead and adjust the position of this, I suspect. What I'm calling a sweeper. So let's roll this over and see if we can't get a look at what we have going on at the highest point when this arm is in line with this adjustment arm. My needles are at their highest point. If I measure from my twine right there down to my disc, I am right at 2.7, 2 3/4 inches there. 2 3/4 inches there. I'm actually okay, right? 2 3/4 to 3 inches. So my adjustment is right on the lower end. I'd like to make it a little bit higher. I thought I was proud, but apparently I'm not. So once again, I'm not adjusting it. I'm rolling with what I have right there. Next step,